morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I'm the Grace Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Tuesday, November 28th, 2023. What do we have coming through in the cards for today? May I please have the first 5 cards in our 5-card spread? First card we are starting our day off with today is our 10 of Cups in its reversal. I am not surprised to see this right now. As I mentioned, we were looking at circumstances and situations that need some point of addressing. Masculine and feminine energy, one of the things that we noticed, even as it relates to some of the circumstances and situations over the last week, there were some difficulties, there were some hurdles that needed to be adjusted and accommodated for. Masculine and feminine over the last week were working in very different modalities. Specifically, we noticed that for the masculine and feminine energy, feminine was feeling a lot of that emotional overwhelm. Masculine wasn't necessarily taking it as seriously. That in itself was a bit of where we saw some of that crisis energy that was arriving around the divine union energies, even if it wasn't necessarily being triggered from within the divine union partnership itself or from outside situations and circumstances. For masculine and feminine energy, in divine union and partnership, this is not only a moment that is requiring some period of navigating what could feel like some of these hurdles. And again, I'm not surprised to see this right now, my friends. We are on the cusp of a Mercury retrograde coming through. But it is this sense or that feeling of, again, trying to right the ship to a certain extent. It's not necessarily a point of allowing this to be something that's getting your spirits low, but it's observing what isn't working to allow for greater easement going forward. One of the things that needs to be addressed, and we saw that some of that catharsis point was coming through in the divine union and partnership energy yesterday, was an observation of masculine potentially feeling like things are going just dandy right now, feminine feeling a lot more of this unsteadiness. This could be a moment that, again, either for the divine union energy right now, there is a point of trying to find something that feels like it is going to create more of that stability going forward, allowing this to be a period of adjustment, of accommodation, of working together to be able to find that point of equal mutual collaboration that is going to allow for a bit of that easement going forward. We called that a bit of that like writing, the balancing, like, rebalancing yesterday that we saw that was coming through and related to the energy. Or this is more of the energy of the divine union having to deal with circumstances and situations outside of the union itself that are creating some feelings of instability. This could be related to circumstances related to family, friends, fracturing in those modalities. We even saw that a lot of the energy of the divine union last week had to potentially deal with some blowback as it relates to energy coming towards the divine union for some points of guidance and not necessarily liking what that guidance was being provided on. May have even created more points of fracturing in a state or space of trying to give one's best advice or give one's best insight around situations and circumstances. Now, masculine and feminine energy are putting a lot of care and consideration in this right now as they proceed forward from this point. But again, it's all for the sake of creating better harmony going forward. Masculine and feminine energy that are trying to come into divine union, we see that if you are still on this, if you are still on this path, there is, again, potentially feeling like you're going back into a point of having to recognize something that one or the other of you may have done that created a sense of not being in divine union. That's what potentially triggered a lot of this frustration and a lot of this anxiety. One of the problems around this too, which is one of the reasons I mentioned the importance or value of working through some of these problems together as opposed to bringing them to outside energy right now, has a lot to do with the fact that if this is coming back together after there was an affirmation on the pointing of the finger pointing, that this is potentially also now creating a state or space of not necessarily feeling like all the energy around you is aligned to the partnership itself. Potentially because, again, you took the problems outside the partnership instead of working on them within. And this is almost creating now that feeling of the energy around you not necessarily being on board with what you're trying to put forward at this time, while also potentially recognizing that you may have led things to be in that modality or that vibration. Masculine and feminine energy in separation right now, this is the reason that we see that the separation is persisting. For feminine energy, this is more of that feeling of, again, if this was a masculine that wasn't there during a point of crisis or an emotional crisis that you were experiencing over the last few days, and you had to go towards other energy to get that point of support. This was almost the energy amplifying your own confirmation of feeling like that energy did not necessarily prioritize the partnership itself. And as a result, it's hard to see a long-term productive outcome with that energy, specifically because there was a moment that was almost becoming a point of observation for feminine last week in, again, seeing if the masculine was going to be in the presence of the feminine when the feminine really needed them. Masculine, if in separation right now, this is a moment that, again, if you are in separation in a masculine energy right now, there's potentially a feeling of anxiety that's coming into play right now as it relates to the uncertainty on the future right now. Masculine energy, if this was a moment that, again, you're trying to come into some point of rehabilitation, if you will, or healing around some family situations, or some of that energy of the held karmic that was trying to give you some points of insight that you weren't necessarily ready to experience, this is potentially either feeling some of that blowback right now, feeling that frustration, again, that isolation, but also potentially recognizing that your response to some circumstances or situations may have triggered that result. Or this is a moment of masculine having that point of anxiety and separation in terms of asking oneself, what does one's legacy look like? What are you actually building towards? And I will say that for the energy right now, in separation, the masculine energy in separation, this is potentially going to feel like a little bit of a heaviness that's coming in today. So I want to make sure that you're taking a lot of care of yourself right now as you go through some of this emotionality right now. Second card in our 5-card spread for today is Hierophant in its reversal. A lot of questions in relation to commitment right now. Masculine and feminine energy. Even in divine union and partnership right now, I have to point out that one of the things that may be weighing on the divine union energy has to do with the fracturing of some partnerships that are potentially around the divine union. As we said, the masculine and feminine energy in divine union right now are doing a lot of that heavy lifting, if you will, for a lot of the energy that is not necessarily in partnership at this moment. For some of the energy, this is potentially expressing itself as feeling like one needs to mitigate or help address these circumstances or situations to allow for this point of easement. While for the masculine, other parts of the masculine and feminine energy right now that are in divine union, there could potentially be a feeling right now of having to take some unconventional approaches to be able to find your happiness, to be able to move in that vibration of finding your bliss at this time. And this may also be creating some points of conflict at this moment, because there is this feeling, again, that the energy around you doesn't feel like it's helping amplify you going forward in this way. It's almost like forcing you to have to like carve out a space for yourself by, the way that you desire to do so, while also trying to help others along the way. So it is that feeling of, again, having to take I'm getting here, it's like unconventional situations require unconventional approaches, if you will. Masculine and feminine energy that is working to come into divine union. This is exactly why we see that the energy itself is having such a difficult time coming into the expression of that vibration, specifically because there is a doubt that has arisen here as it relates to the commitment of the energy in divine union and partnership at this time. Specifically, this was a moment of having to navigate a circumstance or situation that's requiring some changes. As I mentioned, some of this energy right now that's coming into partnership, there's some changes that need to come into play to allow for the divine union energy to unfold. And it's almost feeling like a shifting of one's priorities. We even recognize to a certain extent that for a lot of this energy right now in divine union and trying to come into divine union and divine partnership, there was this feeling that was emerging in relation to whether the energies are committed to the partnership. Now, for the energies that showed that commitment to each other, even in a moment of separation that may have happened over the last few days, we were effectively seeing that this may have become expressing in kind of saying that the obligations that one held that created that separation point were the things that may need to be modified and adjusted going forward. Because we saw there that if there was a crisis point that was potentially being reached in two energies not being in connectivity the way that they desired to, it was almost amplifying the fact of someone feeling like the crisis point was the obligation that was separating them from the energy that they desired to be in divine union with, which is why we see here that this is almost allowing for some of these modifications and changes going forward, refocusing one's commitment to the divine union above all else. Masculine and feminine energy that went into separation basically saw the exact opposite unfold over the last few days, because what we really saw happening there was, again, a moment that felt like a point of crisis, a point of separation. But if this was energy where, again, the feminine expressed that they were having that point of emotional overwhelm, and rather than the masculine staying in connectivity with the feminine, but instead moved off or potentially tried to put off the feminine, or potentially tried to articulate that the masculine had something that was a higher priority that felt like it was of work, but then was obviously looking to all intents and purposes like it was not work. It was something that felt like a point of easement as opposed to work. This is the feminine energy potentially moving immediately back into separation, feeling the validity of the energy around them, supporting them in that choice, because that is the feminine energy that is articulating to themselves and saying that the masculine energy has shown the feminine once and for all that this is not an energy that has the commitment as their priority, but will allow other things to intervene. And that's the feminine saying that is all the confirmation they need coming back into separation. Masculine in separation right now, you may be feeling the weight of a lot of energy around you, kind of having some of these fracture points. The problem is potentially happening right now for masculine, if this effectively occurred, is this moment of potential frustration. You may have felt like you allowed yourself that point of having these priorities, choosing these things over whatever was kind of calling your attention towards it. But now you may find that some of that information, whatever happened in that time, didn't even necessarily happen in a positive fashion. It may have created more points of fracturing, which is, again, masculine energy in separation right now. It may feel like you're coming into a state or space of having a lot of conciliatory energy coming forward right now, feeling like you're kind of being called upon to have some point of recognizing some of the difficulties that may have arose from some of your actions or some of your words right now. Again, seeing them almost again, and that the reason this is happening is because the masculine energy in separation is almost seeing and getting from both sides, both within partnership right now and energy around them, saying this may be an issue that you have with commitment. This may be a deeper issue that needs to be unpacked as it relates to commitment. And this is almost a masculine being put in a space or place right now where there's no other way to really see it. It's just kind of being shown to them. It's just being presented to you. And this is a moment, depending on where you are, masculine energy, in assessing and addressing your own inabilities or hurdles around commitment right now. Or you're breaking away from any energy that's trying to show this to you because you're not ready to embody this lesson. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Third card in our 5-card spread for today. That is not, this is going to be this card. That's too many. All right. Okay, so one of the things we have to be very cognizant of today is that feeling of impatience that's potentially rising up today. There is a feeling right now of potential frustrations that are arriving, a feeling of not having the patience potentially required to go through some circumstances and situations right now. Masculine and feminine energy, even if you are in divine union right now, bearing in mind that this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. I want you to be very careful of trying to stay calm, making sure that you don't get overly frustrated, because this could, I have to stress, these energies in combination could lead to some hairy points of fracturing. It could lead to some little dust-ups. It could lead to a little bit of that anxiety point being reached, because what we're seeing here is deeper anxieties, even in divine union right now, are rising up to the surface. And it's almost creating a little bit of this trigger point in being a bit more reactive as opposed to being intentional. So not letting, for feminine, this is going to make a lot of sense. This is more of that feeling of emotional overwhelm that the feminine energy might be experiencing at this time. This is that feeling of, again, having a point of frustration. Feminine energy has been doing a lot to try and kind of right their own emotional ship at this time. And this is a moment of the feminine effectively feeling that point of frustration as it relates to their own ability to do so. Masculine, you may also be feeling like this to a certain degree, though we see here that this may be a moment that you're being more adaptable or amenable, if in divine union and partnership right now, to take a little bit more of that wait and see approach as it relates to circumstances and situations right now. But that may be a part of the problem, because this is a moment where the feminine is not necessarily feeling like there is an ability to wait and see, because feminine just wants to see some kind of change occurring here. And masculine is more in a modality of trying to navigate some of that space right now. So I have to say, for even the energy right now in divine union and partnership, making sure that you're approaching things with patience is going to be very important, because feminine is feeling a lot of this expression of feeling like they have a lot to do potentially and not enough time to do it right now. Masculine, you may also be feeling like this. So everybody's feeling like a little today. So take it easy. Take your breaths, okay? Masculine and feminine energy trying to come into divine union and partnership right now. This is going to feel a lot more difficult, because this isn't going to feel like little dust-ups in the divine union energy, as opposed to really looking at a circumstance and situation and saying there needs to be some kind of change here. This could be addressing a lot of the circumstances and situations that played out over the last few days, because we saw that for the energy trying to come into divine union and partnership right now, the last few days were very difficult. They were not ideal. They brought up a lot of notes, things that need to be adjusted or modified going forward. The problem here is, again, this is a feminine energy that if there wasn't constant communication throughout, it may have expressed itself as a complete moving into separation. So this could even be a moment right now of feeling that one of the frustrations that's happening for the energy that's in trying to come into divine union right now is that feeling of not having enough time with one another. That's something about the obligations outside of the partnership, or the desired partnership trying to come together right now, has been pulling. It's almost an observed moment of feeling like it's been having that weight on the divine union. And you can see here the difference between the energy that went through this right now and stayed moving in the vibration of coming into divine union versus the energy that immediately split off into separation. Because what we're effectively seeing here is the energy that's still trying to come into divine union. It's almost reaching a point of like culmination of being like, I can't wait to see you. I can't wait to come back towards you right now. It's almost creating that space or place right now where, again, the obligation is the divine union, and it was feeling like everything else, the other obligations, don't feel like they were the commitment point. They feel like they were just hurdles or obstacles that needed to be addressed, that will allow, that can now be pushed forward in to allow for this coming together to occur again. Masculine and feminine that did not stay in connection during that point of crisis, didn't come closer together through it, but almost separated or pulled apart. This is almost why we find that this energy is almost completely back into separation again, and feminine's not looking back, because this is the feminine that is feeling the frustration or the weight of looking at some energy and feeling like there was just a proof of the energy itself not choosing the commitment over anything, but again feeling amplified that they allow the excuse of outside obligations, of things that they don't necessarily, that they feel like are pulling them away from the partnership, to constantly interrupt the ability of coming into divine union. And I feel like for a lot of the feminine energy in separation right now, which again, I wouldn't really call this separation, this almost feminine energy having a point of trying to observe and bring up to masculine, or any energy at all right now, that yes, while there are always problems in life that make partnership difficult, problems in life do not disappear when partnership exists. It's not the fact that you wait until the situation is perfect to build a partnership. It's that you build a partnership and recognize that the partnership persists because of how you navigate the crises around the partnership together. If feminine did not see that over the last few days, this is feminine confirming that this is an energy that does not understand the value or significance of divine union and is continuing further on their search. And they're just feeling potentially they're going to be very aggressive about it, because we see here that this is a feminine that is frustrated if someone has wasted their time. Masculine energy in separation right now, this is potentially going to feel like a little bit more of that internal sense of panic that may be rising up right now that needs to be addressed. Because again, something that has occurred over the last few days as it relates to some of the energy around you has kind of demarcated or shown some breakages as it relates to partnership at this time. There could have even been a moment that we see that you may have gone towards other energy right now to get some advice or guidance, and what you got wasn't necessarily that pat on the back amplification on what you're doing, but almost some points of critique, things that you could be doing differently or better right now that are articulating potentially some deeper issues as it relates to commitment right now. For the masculine energy, this is almost a wake-up call. It's like that bright light, that moment of like waking up to this, seeing this aspect of yourself, wanting to come into easement, recognizing that this is something that you may need to address sooner rather than later. Or this is masculine energy just trying to depart, trying to move away from anyone that's trying to tell them this, being much more reluctant and resistant to receiving this message, and instead just kind of going like on their own, like moving away again with a bit of that persecution narrative, just trying to take care of these things, but again, potentially being very temperamental as you do so. I want everyone to be very careful and conscientious with your words today, because these energies really speak to a lot of potential frustration bubbling up to the surface. Maybe make sure that what you have to contribute is going to feel productive, not helpful. Force card in our 5-card spread for today. This should look familiar because this was actually on the bottom of the deck yesterday. So complete continuation of the reading that we saw yesterday. So what are we seeing here? Effectively, we are recognizing and identifying right now that one of the issues, and I need to stress this is why we see that some of this energy could have a little bit of fracturing today. Masculine energy is very much holding their ground to a certain extent. Masculine energy is almost moving right now in a state or space of just being very, very firm. I'm going to be polite when I say this. Being very, very firm in their convictions. Now, for masculine and feminine energy that are in divine union, this is going to feel like a bit of a good thing and a bad thing. Because what we're effectively identifying here for the energy around this right now is a feminine that is potentially feeling more of that immediately, more of that like high energy, frustration, anxious energy as it relates to time, as it relates to trying to do things quickly. Masculine is navigating that by almost being, and I have to stress this, is very interesting, being oppositional to it. Almost being like looking at time to a certain extent and being like, how dare you rush me? How dare you rush me? How dare you rush me? And it's almost masculine, like sinking one's heels in to ground oneself through any of those feelings that are coming up that are making them feel that sense that that time is like, that there isn't enough time. This is masculine energy, almost like, again, and I like seeing this because, again, for the masculine and feminine energy in divine union, this is going to feel like a bit of that anchor, right? We're going to have that anchor energy coming into the divine union right now, because this is the masculine that's pushing back against that feeling by really grounding and centering themselves on the tangible, really allowing that to be their linchpin. Feminine, you may be taking a lot of points of advice and guidance right now, if in divine union, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, towards the masculine energy's own ability not to allow oneself to get that point of anxiety here, but almost to like just ground it, to just channel it into practical spaces and places rather than allowing it to kind of build that sense of frustration within you. This is why we see that the divine union energy is really taking notes from one another, because again, masculine is seeing the feminine's ability to also take unconventional approaches to navigate any difficulties and hurdles. And feminine is looking to masculine right now, if in divine union, and appreciating masculine's own ability to stay grounded and stable and a present, grounding force in the life of the feminine through difficult circumstances. Exactly what potentially caused that feeling of the tower moment just a few days ago. Masculine and feminine energy right now that are going into divine union and partnership, that are continuing forward in this way. This is the aspect of the feminine, what the feminine seeing in the masculine, that feels like a relief. It feels like a change. For the feminine, it is potentially validating that there's still a possibility of divine union to come into play, even if there's been any periods of fractiousness over the last few days, because this is a masculine energy that did not depart during those times of crisis, almost amplified their desire to be with the feminine to help them through it, and is now almost articulating the fact that their only thing that they want to change is to be more present with the feminine through those moments, right? And that is also amplifying the ability of this to continue to move into the divine union vibration. Masculine, if you're moving into divine union, this is that moment that you are also recognizing. It's not that the divine union or partnership is easy right now. You're recognizing that it made things a bit harder. But again, the beauty of the energy coming into divine union right now is masculine, almost realizing and recognizing that that is further confirming to you how important this partnership or this divine union is. Because again, it is that recognition of coming into a point of maturity, because you are not going into a divine union because it is easy. You are choosing to create a divine union because it is hard, because you realize the value of that hard work means being a constant gardener. Remember, that was the message that we were getting last week. This is the masculine almost seeing the fruits of the labor of that if you went through and continued in that fashion, because you're recognizing that this is allowing you a space or place of just building a sense of wanting to come back into the thing that you're creating with another person. Masculine and feminine energy that allowed last week, or a lot of the events last week, to create separation points, potentially even, again, we even saw a masculine that was trying to potentially articulate to a feminine in some way, shape, or form that their obligations that looked more like points of easement were like very difficult or very hard, and they were forcing them away from the divine union energy, or from the responsibilities, or for some kind of open conflict that needs to be addressed. This is feminine almost completely moving away from that entirely. This is feminine almost immediately shutting the door on that, because this is the feminine almost feeling a point of confirmation in feeling and recognizing to a certain degree a masculine energy that does not put their feeling of stability in union or in partnership, but is only focused on their own sense of stability. And again, this is going to be very interesting for the feminine energy in this modality, because it's almost a moment of looking at the energy and saying, that energy has every ability of creating stability around them, but it is going to come through as a feminine. And again, this is where we see some of that like aggressiveness. It's going to feel like a little bit of that story from like Scrooge in a way, of feminine saying, yeah, you're very stable, but that energy only cares about themselves. They only care about the only facet of stability is from their own optics. And this is a feminine that's almost like divorcing themselves from any energy, that it's not the question about whether they can create stability. It's the fact of the feminine feeling like that point of stability isn't one that they extend into partnership. It's only ever about their personal vested interest. That's why we see feminine is almost immediately breaking away from that, because that was the message that feminine was potentially getting amplified if in separation from masculine over the past week, especially if they were going towards other karmic positive energies around them, that was further amplifying and saying, yes, they probably look really good on paper, but they only look good on paper because it's only about themselves. Masculine in separation right now, this could be a moment that you're seeing yourself in this way. This could be a moment, this could be a reason, this could be one of the reasons you're having a little bit of this fracture point right now, and you may even be seeing and identifying a little bit of your own stubbornness here, because something that was potentially communicated to you that was potentially trying to make you have some point of observation or clarification, be able to see some issues that you may have in relation to partnership. you may have misinterpreted or made yourself feel like they were trying to say that you were being selfish. And this is why we see that for some of this energy right now, there is a little bit of stubbornness coming through if in masculine in separation right now, because this is either a moment of the masculine having this point of recognition, having this point of observation, seeing themselves from the optics of the energy around them, those notes that they were given, that is hard for them to fully embrace. But some of that energy right now, if the masculine energy in separation is doing this work, this is potentially seeing yourself in a different fashion that's helping you decide if you can move or you have that desire to move into union right now. For a lot of the masculine energy in separation right now, this could be a deeper question that's potentially opening up in relation to whether you actually desire divine union, or if you're just kind of continuing to want to desire to move in that modality of thinking primarily for yourself and in your own best interests. This is, again, either a masculine energy that is observing this with an effort and an energy and a desire to change it, or this is a masculine energy that may be getting a little bit stubborn, maybe doubling down a bit and being like, I'm fine being that way. Like, I'm okay being that way. This is how I am what I am kind of moment, and saying like, that's how I choose to be, which could be a little bit of that stubbornness coming through, which we see may not necessarily be allowing for those points of healing to happen, but more a bit of frustration, because again, I need to stress for some of the feminine energy right now, this could come through with a little bit of conflict in feeling like the masculine energies being very resistant to change right now. That could get a little bit on the nerves of the feminine energy, regardless of whether you're in partnership right now or not, regardless of whether this is even just karmic energy around you. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Fifth card in our 5-card spread for today, before we start getting clarification, may I please have the next card, is we like this. This is productive. Seeing something allows us an ability to move forward in a more productive way. Masculine and feminine energy right now, you're doing this work. It's not the fact that everything is easy right now. There are some real hurdles. There's some real obstacles that need to be addressed. This may even be a little bit of the blowback of some stuff that happened last week as it relates to some of the karmic energy that is around the partnerships, because we saw that some of that outside energy, there may have been some conflicts that sprung up, people misunderstanding what was being given, somebody asking for advice, feminine potentially giving advice, the advice not being taken in the proper context. Again, someone's like looking at something being like, I didn't mean to interfere, or I didn't mean to cause a problem. Again, all of this like hairy energy around the partnerships right now. Masculine is looking at feminine and again almost doing more, and this is almost a bit of a problem. Masculine was moving at a much more easy pace last week. Masculine wasn't taking things so seriously, and this is why this is almost masculine continuing to amplify that message to feminine, which is like, I know what I care about, I know what I value. Masculine's almost saying to feminine, so what? If feminine's bringing any of these issues to masculine, any of these fears, any of these concerns, the masculine is almost saying to the feminine in kind, so what? Who cares? It's not important. And it's almost, again, this moment of masculine. And I think that this is actually the important thing that's happening now. Feminine is not necessarily taking this masculine now as saying, who cares? It's not important. This isn't a masculine doing that from a carefree mentality like they were last week. This is almost a masculine being like, no, I gave it more thought. I gave thought to everything that you're concerned about. This is not a concern. This is not something you have to be worried about. This is not something we have to be worried about. This is almost masculine saying to feminine, you don't have to worry about anything. I've got it. I've got us. These things don't matter because I'm not going to let them matter. This is almost masculine, almost like leaning over to feminine and being like, I know you think I'm saying I don't matter because I don't care. Masculine saying, I'm choosing not to care because they're not going to let them impact us. Right? Now, masculine and feminine energy that is moving in, and this is why we see that for the divine union energy right now, even that moment feels, and again, it could be a little bit more frustrating right now because we see that for the feminine, this is much more of that fractious energy, moving around a lot more right now, feeling a lot of that weight, having to take unconventional approaches. But again, it is feeling the stability of the masculine energy around you right now that is now creating this space or place of being able to see past your own horizons and being able to have that clarity of purpose. Feminine's almost allowing that grounded energy that they're getting from the masculine to help ground them, even in a moment that they may be feeling less than grounded. And that's what's allowing this ability to start moving ahead this week. A lot of planning, a lot of preparation potentially coming into play right now. Masculine and feminine that are moving into divine union right now, this is going to feel like a little bit more of a treacherous territory, because I got to stress right now that for the masculine and feminine energy right now that is trying to come into divine union, this could be feeling like a little, again, this is if the energy came through in a positive way. This is masculine almost saying to feminine right now. Again, this could be masculine if in divine union right now. Almost saying, I'm relieved to be able to move away from all of that. I'm relieved to be able, like, whatever those issues are, I'm relieved that they're over. I can't move away from them soon enough, because this is a masculine potentially right now that is saying, this is what I'm building for myself right now. The divine union is where the masculine is feeling their strength. They're feeling the stability. This is almost a masculine looking at a lot of like wackiness around them, much like the divine union energy, and being like, not my circus, not our circus, not our monkeys. This is almost a masculine saying like, yeah, I used to be a part of that. I was there. I felt like a stranger in a strange land. I didn't feel like I was even a part of that right now, because what I'm creating with us, that's like what I want to concentrate and focus on. Right? And that is the feminine. If the feminine is seeing this right now in masculine, that is also, if this is a masculine that helped the feminine navigate any of those hurdles, continued to be a rock for them during that time. This is feminine immediately getting that confirmation and saying, this is an energy that's ready. This is an energy I can see a future with. As opposed to the masculine energy, that if this was a masculine energy that did the opposite of, again, if there was a feminine that came to the masculine expressing over the last few days, feeling like that point of crisis about some of the circumstances and situations that they had to navigate, and this was a masculine that almost said like, I've got my own issues to deal with right now. I can't be here. I can't deal with this. I can't talk about this right now. If this was a masculine that walked away from the feminine, this is a feminine that is almost completely closing the door on whatever that possibility was, because this is almost feminine that moved into spaces and places where they articulated what was occurring, and they immediately got confirmation in terms of saying that there was no commitment there, and that if anything, that they were just wasting their time there. And feminine is now back out looking for masculine energy that actually desires partnership. Masculine energy in separation right now. This could be a moment that, again, something that was brought to you over the last few days may have been a point of deep consideration as to what it is that you're trying to create for yourself at this moment. There may have even been some points of conflict that arose with some energy that wasn't even romantic in nature, but was just potentially trying to give you some insight on some things that they see that they think could allow you to have some point of adjustment or accommodation. The problem here is this is almost leading again to masculine embodying these lessons, which is going to feel like a bit of a breakthrough, because this is masculine that's almost feeling like there's a point of feeling like you're maturing, or you're ready to take that step. You're ready to settle down to a certain extent. This is almost masculine embracing that lesson over the last few days in terms of identifying what divine union feels like and aspiring for it, being willing to take some of the notes from energy that's in divine union that was trying to help you get on that path. Or this is masculine saying, I'm going alone. I'm doing this myself. I don't need any of you. I don't want anybody with me. I just want to focus on my own stability, and I'm going to, and potentially even like, again, traveling, getting away from the energy, moving somewhere else as they make this choice to concentrate on themselves. There may even be some travel plans coming in, because as a masculine's like not trying to heal any rift, Just move away from it. So this is either masculine that's coming forward from right now and apologizing, coming into some point of conciliation, saying, I see what you were trying to tell me. Or this is masculine, literally like planning a trip and being like, I gotta go. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our 10 of Cups in its reversal in combination with our Hierophant in its reversal. Clarification coming through right now with 8 of Swords. Masculine and feminine energy that are in divine union and partnership right now. This is a moment that and I think it's really interesting too, because it's almost looking at situations and circumstances in relation to unhealthy, anything as it relates to unhealthy family patterns, situations, circumstances, things that feel triggering. And it's looking at, again, things that you're stuck with versus things that you can change. For feminine and masculine right now, this could be a lot of the discussion that's happening in divine union, because this is a moment that we're effectively identifying and looking for the divine union energy in trying to identify what do you have to deal with? What's just something, and again, it's almost like I see here, masculine's almost helping feminine put things in boxes right now in terms of saying we either have to deal with this and live with it, or we can change it. These are either two things that happen. It's one or the other. And one of the things that could be happening right now is there could be some difficult conversations that are potentially happening between a feminine that is complaining or concerned about where they find themselves at this moment, and masculine, is where we see some of that shortness potentially arising right now. Because this is the masculine energy saying, again, you can either stay stuck in the situation that you're in, or you can change it. If you're going to be stuck in it, you can't complain. If you're going to change it, go ahead and change it. Masculine's getting a little bit more brass tacks right now with feminine energy, and this could be something that either feminine feels is positive in divine union and partnership right now, or it could make the feminine feel a little bit a little wounded by it. And that's what we have to worry about, because this could be a feminine that takes that the wrong way and kind of gets a little wounded about the masculine taking that. But this is masculine that embodies this lesson, is what we're seeing. There's almost a masculine that's trying to help the feminine and say listen, there's only so much you can complain. There's only so much that you can talk about without changing it. So if you're going to talk about it, let's either change it or let's live with it, right? It's one or the other. Which one is it going to be? You're going to complain about it, you're going to do something about it. And masculine might be getting a little bit short because masculine's got a lot of stuff to do right now. And if feminine's also going through this right now, this is masculine potentially getting too practical for the feminine. And that may create a little bit of frustration right now, even in the divine union energy. Masculine and feminine energy right now. But again, masculine's almost saying this this is tough love coming through. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Okay? Masculine and feminine energy that is trying to come into divine union right now. This is almost that moment of, again, feeling to a certain extent that what we're experiencing and seeing here is, again, the masculine is effectively feeling that point, and this is what we like to see. This is a masculine that is now feeling the frustration in terms of desiring to build a commitment with feminine and just observing anything that's standing in the way as a hurdle. This could even be any of those obligations that they need to have points of adjustment on right now. This is even potentially talking about how to make those points of adjustment going forward, because something over the last few days, if the energy is trying to continue to move into the divine partnership vibration, it felt like those commitments were not parties. They didn't feel like they were happy events. They felt like there were points of anything that happened over the last few weeks that maybe even have been planned or expected. It doesn't feel like it was enjoyment or enjoyable. It just felt like an unnecessary obligation. And this is masculine almost affirming to the feminine the changes that they're going to make in the future so that they don't need to be as committed to those things that create separators between the partnership so much as unifiers. Feminine, if you're moving into divine union with masculine on this, you're also feeling this, and you're probably feeling over the moon that the masculine is also communicating this to you, because this is you coming into divine union alignment. That's like, oh, we're on the same page, right? Like masculine and feminine almost immediately mirroring each other if this is the case. Talking about what you'll do differently next time to allow these not to be in the way. The energy that's coming into separation, this is that feeling of profound frustration that's potentially arriving right now, because especially, and I need to stress right now, feminine energy that's in separation might not be in the best mood if someone comes towards them right now with a point of conciliation or with a point of apology, if there isn't some accountability at play. Because this is feminine energy that is looking at situations and circumstances right now, and feminine energy is feeling the anger or the weight of not just the fact that there wasn't a commitment here, but someone trying to utilize outside responsibilities as a way to break the commitment. It's almost someone trying to look at something right now and make someone feel guilty. Almost potentially even feeling the feminine, even recognizing that they're being put in an impossible situation, especially if this is a masculine energy. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, that tried to use the obligation of family or situations like that to give a reason why they weren't accessible and available to the feminine, because the feminine's almost realizing that it's putting them in an impossible situation, because this is a feminine that would realize that if a masculine is trying to say, what, are you going to be mad at me because I had this obligation, because I had to do this thing? This is a feminine saying, that's not the case. That's not what I'm saying. This is a feminine almost seeing the fact that this is a masculine that's trying to evade the responsibilities of commitment by trying to make it trying to paint a picture of the feminine that is oppositional to them having these connections. And this is a feminine saying or seeing that. This is a feminine that's even potentially seeing some logical fallacies here that more than anything are just trying to keep the feminine in a space or place that does not allow for a deepening commitment, but just expects the feminine to be available when the masculine desires them to be, and not vice versa. This is why feminine saying absolutely not. Feminine is seeing this and just continuing forward from this point, because feminine is almost not letting themselves get caught in this trap of having a masculine trying to make them feel guilty for asking for the bare minimum that one would expect in a divine union and partnership. Masculine, that's why the feminine is also feeling a little bit more of that frustration right now if a masculine tries to paint something like this to the feminine, because that's what the feminine is seeing. Feminine's almost saying, that has nothing to do with this. Your commitments it's not a tit for tat. It's not one or the other. It's a fact that the commitment should always be the commitment regardless of what's happening around you. That the situations around you shouldn't be an on-off switch as to whether commitment is happening. The commitment should be the pervasive factor. Everything else comes after the commitment. Then that's the moment of feminine saying, there is nothing that we can't do together. If not, then there's no commitment here. Masculine, if in separation right now, you may have had some energy around you trying to articulate this to you if you were in separation from a feminine. Almost the masculine, almost some of the energy of divine union potentially saying to you in some way, shape, or form, well, they kind of have a point. If this was masculine that was amplifying this to the energy around them. And the problem with masculine right now is if masculine is in separation, this is a moment that you're potentially observing these limitations. You're seeing things from the perspective of the energy around you right now that is either, again, recalibrating or adjusting your own thoughts as it relates to divine union, which is beautiful, or this is a moment that you're saying, well, why would I want divine union in the first place? Who would want that? That sounds like a burden. That sounds like too much of a burden. That sounds like something that doesn't have any benefit. It just feels like it has detriment, in which case it's almost a masculine that, again, is either coming into recognizing the value and understanding divine union or doubling down and saying, well, I don't want divine union. I don't want anything that feels like it is going to confine or restrict me. But this is almost masculine, realizing this and saying, I guess I'm just not the type that's looking for a divine partnership. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Between our Hierophant in its reversal in combination with our Temperance in its reversal. May I please have one card, please? Beautiful. We've got here our 10 of Wands. It may look familiar. We pulled the same card yesterday. Masculine and feminine energy that is moving in divine union and partnership. This is that point that we're effectively identifying and seeing here, because what we're really seeing here is for the divine union partnership, there is a moment that, again, this is going to feel more like riding a wave. You're going to realize tempers are short today. Things are frustrating. Things feel like there's there's some navigating of circumstances or situations. But again, it doesn't feel as overwhelming. It's almost a moment that just allows you to come into a space or place of modification in reaction. It's like just keeping your head down, continuing forward in this way. The divine union energy, again, it's going to feel like a bit of like a game of inches right now. It's almost a masculine and feminine energy being like, we can't let ourselves get like caught up over every minor inconvenience, over every minor detail. We can't let ourselves have these become explosive moments, because it distracts us from the long-term goal. And this ability, the divine union's ability right now, to not take things on a momentary basis, but to really look at the long term, look at that long path. Look at what you're building. That is what's allowing for that sense of easement right now, because it's creating that space or place where it's like the immediate problems do not feel like they're overwhelming the circumstances. They don't feel like they're like, crisis points. It just feels like frustrations that, are challenging. But as long as the partnership stays intact, that ability and that viability continues forward. And that is why we see that for the divine union energy right now, it feels like a cumulative effort. It's not so much about getting frustrated on what doesn't come together, because you're almost accumulating the positives and taking those forward as you go, and almost saying to yourself, like, it's fine. As we move forward, there's going to be some situations that kind of, fall to the wayside or don't work out the way we ideally desire them to, but altogether, as long as we're moving in the right direction, everything is copacetic. That is where we see that this is becoming an empowering moment, and this is almost what the masculine is trying to help the feminine recognize and realize today, to help them stay motivated beyond some of these feelings of anxiety as it relates to time. Masculine and feminine right now that are moving into divine union, this is potentially a moment that feels like coming through a point of crisis, of mutual crisis, but feeling the deepening of the connection through navigating that crisis together. That point of observation, feminine feeling, again, seeing some exhibited behavior on a part of a masculine that navigated or stayed present with the feminine at a moment that it was difficult for them to do so, at a moment that it was not just pleasurable, but it was hard, has almost further amplified to this feminine that this is an energy that they feel is there, not just when things are easy, but when things are hard. Masculine, you may be feeling now like you're on a new path if this occurred, because you may be feeling right now the fact that you recognize that you're feeling that weight, you're feeling that burden, you're feeling that empowerment, that heavy but precious load that you're now carrying, that is the divine union, that is feeling like it is shifting your priorities, because it is. It's because you're feeling that the divine union's weight, its significance, its importance is starting to override the other obligations around you right now, because you're moving into the divine union frequency. So that's, yes. Masculine and feminine energy that are in separation, this is quite the opposite, because what we're effectively seeing here is, again, this is a feminine energy that needed the masculine to a certain point, potentially even reached out, needed that support from masculine. And if this was a masculine that said, like, I've got other things to do, I can't deal with this right now, why are you bringing this to me? This is a feminine that says, nope, that's it. This is a feminine that says, almost to a certain extent, that was moving immediately back into separation, saying, I've seen all I need to see. There's no partnership here. I'm only supposed to be at the disposal of this masculine energy when it suits them. That's not the divine partnership. I can't waste any more time with this. And this is feminine just moving forward. Again, with a heaviness, with a feeling of frustration, but also getting that point of confirmation, potentially even from some of the energy that was around them that helped them through that moment, that's amplifying to them that that's a correct path to move forward on. Masculine energy right now, in separation, there is this point that may have become very, very apparent to you over the last few days. And if it wasn't brought up in the divine union frequency, it was brought up by some of the energy around you that you may have reached out to for advice or support in amplifying your own difficulty in it as it relates to partnership or commitment right now. And again, this is a moment where other commitments, even outside of romantic situations, may have been fractured by some of this information being brought to you. And this is a moment that you are either taking this as a point of change, committing yourself to this new path, or this is a moment that you're potentially even moving away. Like literally, I'm getting your like literal travel, like getting away from some energy right now, being like, I don't want to deal with this. I'm just going to go elsewhere so that you don't need to like experience or take in the value of this lesson, almost saying to yourself, that's fine. I don't want to be in divine union. I don't want partnership. And almost saying that that is the path that you're setting for yourself as you go forward from this point. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Temperance card in its reversal in combination with our King of Pentacles. It's a lot of this is a little stubbornness here today. Which is good. Stubbornness can be very good. May I please have, in the right context, may I please have one card? Look, what did I say? In the right context, stubbornness is beautiful. Stubbornness in the right context is beautiful. Stubbornness in the right context is tenacity, right? Stubbornness in the right context is good. And that's what's happening right now for the divine union energy. The divine union energy, feminine, is seeing the stubbornness of a masculine to a certain point. And even though it might be frustrating, that's the only problem right now that may be happening in divine union and divine partnership is the feminine feeling a little bit like the masculine is a little bit bullheaded here. I'm just going to come out and say it. Bearing in mind, it's not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. There could be something that's happening right now in divine union that may be feeling a little bit frustrating to the feminine in terms of feeling like this, the masculine, that feels like it's giving a little bit of like, I said what I said kind of thing. Like there's a stubbornness here. But the value and significance of this stubbornness is also feminine realizing that that is about taking a little bit of the salt with the sweet here. This is almost the feminine saying, I like the feminine, again, if in divine union and partnership, almost observing and saying, I need to take a little salt with the sweet here. This is a masculine. The reason I appreciate this energy is for the same reason potentially in divine union that they might be driving you a little on the, like up the wall a little bit today is what we're effectively seeing. And there's almost this feminine recognizing feminine may be saying to themselves today, I've got to take a little bit of the salt with the sweet here because this is a masculine that's like staying a little bit like driving forward in this way. But again, the beauty of it is that if these are divine union energies, feminine sees that, again, that sense of stubbornness to a certain extent. They also recognize is in its beatific expressions, which would be, what is stubbornness beautified? Tenacity, resolve, and a willingness to yield as it relates to the things that matter. And feminine is also almost saying to themselves, that's okay. Sometimes that same quality that I appreciate and I care about in this energy is also something that can drive me up the wall. Two things can be existing at once. This is almost how feminine is navigating this right now as they go through this moment. Masculine and feminine that are going through this right now, okay, that are trying to come into divine union, this is going to feel like, again, something that is a bit more coming through in a sense or in a state of really having that point of assessing and understanding right now as it relates to the viability of divine partnership. Because what we're really identifying at this point is we're effectively seeing at this time that this is a moment that we are observing wherein we see that feminine and masculine, it was the fact that, again, anything in terms of trying to come into divine union at this time, there is a feeling of potential. It's going to feel like a bit of a shift that's occurring over the last few days, specifically because the feminine is looking to see if masculine has embodied this sea change. And we see here that with a masculine energy that went through this was a masculine energy that did not depart from the feminine at a point of crisis, but more almost amplified and articulated how much the only thing that frustrated them about some of those circumstances and situations was potentially that they were not in union with the feminine energy as they did so. This almost masculine saying that the feeling of frustration that was coming through had to do with anything that felt like, again, almost like outside in approach. From the masculine that's coming into divine union right now, it's almost feeling like you're creating this space or place with the feminine that is something precious that you're hoping to like find that sense of security and benefit in. You're like creating your own little orbit here. And it's almost creating this space or place where it's like you can't be bothered. Like those things don't matter to you as much because you're recognizing that you're creating something that is all your own here that feels very special. This is coming in. This is literally like discovering and coming into that divine union frequency. Feminine, you may be feeling the same way. This could be a moment that you're seeing that this is a masculine that is not just there when things are easy, they're there when things are hard, and more so they're amplifying that they want you to be with them when things are difficult. And you're also seeing potentially that this is a moving into the vibration of divine union. If this was a masculine that stuck through some situations or scenarios that weren't necessarily super easy. Masculine and feminine in separation right now. What we're effectively seeing has to do with the fact that this is a feminine energy that is saying effectively time is up as it relates to any energy that they may have been giving some space or place on. This may have even been energy that was already in a point of uncertainty. We saw that for a lot of this feminine energy here, there was a feeling of giving some point of consolation already to some masculine energy. This being a moment of wait and see. And feminine is effectively looking right now, if in separation, and having not seen the masculine rise up to this challenge. And instead, interestingly, feminine potentially is now, again, leaving themselves open enough in separation that you're potentially starting to see manifestations of masculine that feel much more grounded, that know what they want. This may even be a moment that some of that energy that you're leaving, right? Some of the energy that you are getting that amplification and confirmation on right now that was giving you that point of support. It's almost like in a way it empowered you to move forward even faster because it almost reaffirmed to a certain extent. If this was feminine energy that was getting those points of advice from some energy around them right now, being like, such a thing exists. This is feminine energy in separation right now that's now moving with a lot of determination towards new connections as opposed to going back to ones that are old right now, because this is a feminine that's saying like there may have been an example. Feminine just saw potentially some energy going through difficulties and seeing the masculine energy in manifestation, what manifestation of masculine energy and divine union looks like. That is almost feminine being like, I want that. That's what I want. None of this, whatever that was, I don't want any of that energy that's giving indications that they don't understand the value of divine union. I want the energy that's literally like creating it every day, being that constant gardener. That's why feminine's like, that's it. And this is now what's really beautiful about this. This is no longer a feminine energy that's waiting on energy. This is a feminine energy that's now starting to move back into the seeker role. This is a feminine energy going like, oh no, I'm going to start looking for it again. I'm going to start looking for it again because I just saw evidence of it and it looks great. Masculine in separation right now. This is, again, you're mirroring the feminine energy in separation right now. The problem with it is some of it might have come with a little bit more of a note to you in relation to what you might have to change right now, because we're seeing here for the masculine in separation, you just got some of that, you got an eyeful of it. Wherever you were, whatever you were doing over the last few days, that point of thank you for the gift, Marsh. That point of information, that point of insight. You had to see it. And this is either a moment of masculine seeing it around them and saying, and it potentially even got some notes from them on what you could be doing differently. And this is, again, either masculine energy, if in separation right now, saying, I need to rethink about how I'm moving towards things. I need to start changing my own perspective in terms of cultivating a relationship and realizing that it needs to be cultivated. It's not just going to be found, versus a masculine energy that potentially is looking at that and saying, like, I don't need it. I don't want it. A good energy, the energy that's for me is just going to like let me kind of navigate and be in my own modality. And they'll just want that too. They'll just want that too. And this is a masculine energy that's almost like saying to themselves that they want, like, that is effectively them just affirming that the divine union they're aspiring for is an energy of someone who doesn't require them to like leave their own sense of stability to enter divine partnership. So this may be some confusing territory that's happening for some of the masculine in separation right now, because it's like almost looking at something saying, how can I have that, but without actually like fully committing to it. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now, between our King of Pentacles in combination with our Two of Wands. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with, we love this. These are some beautiful cards. We've got here our Six of Wands in its upright. Masculine and feminine energy that are moving in divine union right now. This is that moment. This is going to be like a climb every mountain moment. It doesn't matter. Like, it's almost like the feminine and masculine energy that's like going through this moment right now, if in divine union or if in divine partnership. It's not feeling so much like a point of frustration, because as we see, it is something that is focusing on the victories. It's focusing on the wins. It's focusing on the bright spots. It's building that sense of mutual triumph in terms of what you're creating. And it's just letting you kind of hold on to those points of success to continue to go forward in that direction. Masculine and feminine are almost helping each other right now in terms of if anything isn't coming through. If like the souffle does not rise, it's almost like, forget it. Just start a new souffle. It's not the end of the world kind of energy, you know? And that's what's allowing that point of easement, because it's just the point of recognizing that to a certain extent, all you need to do is not focus on what's not working. Just keep amplifying and working towards what is. Continue to build those points of positivity and productivity for one another that's allowing for this to be a point of continuing forward at a state and grace of positivity. Masculine, and it's allowing for a lot of this moment again today, again celebrating the victories even through any of the hurdles, and planning ahead, building that sense of anticipation and excitement for what lies ahead. Masculine and feminine energy that's trying to come into divine union right now, you may be starting to feel the stirrings of this. You may be feeling in a way like something about coming through this moment, having gone through this hurdle, this like bit of a gauntlet that we saw last week, feels like almost a point of triumph, because again, it's almost this feeling of kind of going through something that was difficult and being like, still being on the other side of it, feeling like that weight of that success point of being like, we did it, we went through something hard, giving each other that like point of conciliation, but recognizing the reason you were able to do it so effectively was because you were there for each other throughout. Even if you weren't necessarily immediately present with one another, you are giving that, you are amplifying, you are keeping each other as the focus point, as that point of centering. And this is now a moment that feels a bit more celebratory, that may lead to a lot of more productive conversation, planning ahead, because it's almost a point that's looking at what happened and wanting to make an accommodation point on what you will change going forward. And almost saying like, next time we'll do this, next time we'll do that. It's that talking, building to the future tense that's solidifying and stabilizing the partnership, because it's expressing the appreciation for the moment and building those points of ahead of time. That looking forward in the present, but also looking outward, allowing for this to be an observation of a divine union. masculine and feminine energy in separation right now. This is, again, the feminine energy almost immediately moving into a modality right now. This is almost the feminine energy walking away from something that felt like a bit of a crisis point, but getting a lot of support around them at this time, a lot of that healthy karmic energy that's supporting them at this moment. And again, almost seeing an immediate manifestation of stable masculine energy that's almost setting the template for feminine right now in terms of what it is that they're pursuing going forward right now, which is why we're seeing, if this is a feminine energy that's dealing with a masculine that wasn't there for them or created a point of further crisis in terms of not being with them during a moment that the feminine needed that emotional support, feminine saying good riddance. Feminine's just looking ahead, and they're feeling like the victory point, that there is something here where the feminine feels confident that they can find energy like this, because feminine is seeing, feminine in some way, shape, or form over the last few days feels like they got an observation that it exists. It's almost the feminine being like, I saw the white whale. I was on the sea and I saw it. It's there. There means there are others. And this is almost the feminine energy being like, I'm going to go find it. I know it's out there now because I've seen evidence of it in the world. This is feminine being like, there was a sighting of a stable masculine energy that is now giving me a point of triumph, and now we are setting our course in that direction to go find it, because feminine's now getting out of that modality of now saying I'm ready to move forward, because whatever they're leaving behind, they're it certainly wasn't there. Certainly wasn't that. And there was almost feminine getting amplification from stable masculine energy. This could have even been a feminine energy that is getting masculine energy support right now, that is showing them that some masculine energy in their life is not in that modality. This is literally feminine energy getting that type of masculine support, even if they're not in partnership at this moment. That healthy karmic energy I was talking about. Masculine energy in separation, you too. The problem with this right now is, again, masculine energy over the last few days got a lot of points of insight that was potentially delivered by a lot of healthy, strong energy that's around them, that are either, again, building up the masculine's own ability in terms of how to communicate, what feels like it's going to create a point of positivity. This is a masculine almost saying, I'm ready to take those steps. Or this is a masculine energy that's saying, that's okay, I've seen enough of that. I don't need any of that. I'm going to just keep focusing on myself and setting myself my sights elsewhere. Potentially a lot of planning for masculine energy that's making the conscious choice right now to desire to stay in autonomy. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our 8 of Swords in combination with our 10 of Wands. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Magician reverse. Now, masculine and feminine energy right now that's moving in divine union or moving in divine partnership. This is the one hurdle that needs to be navigated. And again, some of this is coming from matching mutual accountability, a lot of discussion here, personal limitations, personal setbacks, personal moments of doubting oneself and doubting one's own capability. Feminine energy right now is going through this a lot more than masculine. We're just seeing this right now. We're seeing this a lot because we've got a lot of this King of Pentacles energy and Lovers. So we see that for a lot of the energy of feminine right now that's in divine union and in divine partnership, there's a lot of energy potentially coming into play about the feminine really navigating their own feelings of anxiety and limitations in their own capabilities. Masculine is potentially helping them in this way right now. And a lot of it may even be creating a lot of spaces and places in having to unpack any of the places or spaces or energy that made the feminine doubt themselves in the first place. Masculine may even be helping the feminine in this modality right now, in terms of even looking at the feminine to a certain extent. If feminine is expressing things in divine union right now about themselves, and this is almost masculine looking at the feminine a little askance and saying, whoever gave you that idea? Whoever told you that that was the case? Where did you ever hear that? Because it's almost the masculine seeing something about the feminine right now, going through their own point of identifying their own weaknesses, and masculine almost saying to the feminine, you know what? There's only one person I've ever heard would say that about you, and it's you, which means somebody must have implanted that. Can you please tell me where this came from? Feminine, this is why we see a lot of this deeper emotional work is happening right now, because this is feeling like this is coming through, if in divine union right now, a healing journey, recognizing that a lot of these limitations that you've set for yourself have less to do with things that you actually embody and more to do what others, the energy of what others have said about you that needs to be broken, that needs to be addressed. And we see here that a lot of the feminine energy in this modality right now is making a lot of positive, productive change in this moment, in having some of the energy of the divine union really help them see what is their responsibility. Like almost looking at feminine being like, yeah, you do have a habit of doing that. If the feminine's like, I do this. Masculine saying, yes, you do have that. That is something that you do. Versus feminine being like, I do that. Masculine being like, that is like complete, that is just hogwash. Where did you ever get that idea? When did anyone tell you that was the case? And this is almost a masculine helping the feminine right now unpack what is something, like we said, what are the energies in divine union doing right now? What is in our capability to change? And what is in our capability to recognize that we just have to deal with? That's almost what the masculine is effectively saying right now to the feminine. And feminine, for their part, again, seeing this stubbornness, seeing this rigidness on the part of the masculine, is again effectively looking at the masculine to a certain extent and saying, I got to take the sweet with the salt. That the same thing that I aspire to with this energy is also sometimes something that feels like it is a bit confining, right? That is that moment of recognizing that, again, something that feels like it is productive can also feel a little bit difficult. That is why we see that the divine union energy is always a bit of a challenging space, because it's not like everything is perfect all the time. It's that it always takes that little bit of navigation. But again, feminine energy is potentially working through this right now, because they're almost a moment of the feminine, if in divine union right now, seeing some aspect of that in the masculine. But again, if this is moving in the divine partnership frequency, this is almost feminine energy saying to themselves and amplifying your job. And if masculine is also putting this weight on themselves, it's almost feminine saying to masculine, your job in divine union isn't to be perfect. That's not why I'm in the divine union. That's not why we're here together. The point is not that you have to be perfect to be in divine union. And it's almost that point of fallibility, but the fact that the masculine energy sees their own blind spots or is willing to see them, that allows for that point of productivity. Masculine and feminine energy right now that is moving in divine union or coming into divine partnership, you are seeing these qualities and characteristics on the part of the other energy. What we're effectively seeing at this time is, again, a moment or opportunity of feminine, again, seeing something in masculine right now. And it does feel like it was triggering. This could even be feeling a lot with feminine right now, that there were some moments that felt like they're very triggering as it related to some circumstances that just played out if you're trying to move into divine union right now. The importance and the value that we're recognizing right now for the energy trying to move into divine union, much like we just articulated for the energy already in divine union, is not the fact that the energy has to be perfect, but it has to be able to be present for the feminine to potentially show them a blind spot, to show them something that they may not see, to allow for that level of accountability is what is allowing that ability to have a point of taking something that felt like it was a bad thing and turning it into a good thing, i.e. productivity, through a point that felt like a problem. Masculine energy, if you are also moving into divine union at this time, you are recognizing that this is the power of the divine union. It's not a space or place that requires you to be perfect, but it does require you to show up. In a way, it's really like that is the key factor. It doesn't require you to have to navigate it. It's not something that you can have, like, you don't get the quality, or you don't have the luxury of just deciding where something goes. It's something that you do together. And for masculine energy that's moving into this right now, that's one of the only difficulties here. It's recognizing that, like, this isn't something that you can effectively completely control. It's something that's like you're going to have to release a bit of that control to a certain extent, because now you're moving in a vibration of 2 as opposed to 1. And that, again, is a little bit of a mind bender for masculine, because it's empowering, but it's limiting. But masculine, you're feeling that juxtaposition of having to inhabit 2 roles at once. That something that is confining you is also freeing you. That's called an obligation. Masculine and feminine energy that is in separation right now, what we are effectively seeing is, again, for masculine and feminine energy that are in divine union or in separation, this is that point that we are effectively seeing and just identifying and recognizing. Feminine is not letting themselves get stuck. But this is why we see that the feminine energy right now may be feeling so frustrated, especially as it relates to any of the energy that they're moving away from right now. And especially if this is a circumstance or situation where the masculine, instead of coming into a state or space of accountability, if instead of coming into a state or space of accountability and what they can change, if this is masculine energy that is instead trying to say to the feminine, well, I guess I can't have any obligations outside of this then. I guess you don't like my family. I guess you don't like my friends. I guess that this is something like this. This is a feminine energy that is seeing that this is a manipulation. This is a feminine energy that's looking at this right now and saying, this is someone that's trying to avoid partnership by putting the blame on me trying to create unideal long-term future scenarios. And this is almost the feminine energy going, stop. No, we're not doing that. This is not what this is. This is the feminine energy almost immediately calling it out when they see it. This is the feminine energy. If a masculine's trying to do this right now to feminine and they're in separation, this is the feminine energy saying, I see what you're trying to do right now. You're trying to make it so that the feminine feels guilty for asking for the bare minimum in partnership by making it seem like the feminine energy is not trying to build for long-term productive positivity points. And this is a feminine energy that's almost saying to the masculine, you have fun with that. I'm moving forward. And this is the feminine immediately walking away from it because, again, feminine energy is getting a lot of support from other karmic energy around them that are showing them. It's almost showing them immediately and saying, can you see? Can you see what they're doing? And more so, this is also why we see that a lot of the energy right now, the healthy karmic energy, is also feeling frustrated around some of the energy that's around things right now, because masculine and feminine in partnership right now are also doing a lot of work to help or assist a lot of that unhealed karmic energy that we saw over the last few days. This is feminine energy effectively getting that amplification from the karmic energy around them, saying, don't let anyone waste your time like that, and don't let anyone make you feel like your intentions are being misunderstood. Now, feminine is almost potentially even getting affirmation from other healthy karmic masculine energy that's helping them see anything that's moving in that vibration. Masculine and energy that's in separation right now, this is going to feel like a little bit of a trigger point. Because what we're effectively seeing right now is, again, for masculine energy right now, masculine, you're potentially feeling the weight of wanting things to go your way or no way. That's what we're seeing right now with separation. From the masculine energy, I'm trying to let you guys down a little bit. There's some issues right now, masculine energy and separation, and it may have come through with some points of conflict that may not necessarily just be happening in partnership right now, but maybe even with some issues around family, friends, healthy karmic energy that you may have gotten to a bit of a fracas with. Because what are we seeing right now? Okay? We are seeing that this is masculine energy that, again, something about how you're moving right now, how you're addressing yourself. The energy around you is trying to say, can you see how that comes across? Can you see that it feels little one-sided? And that is that moment that we are effectively observing at this time, that the masculine energy in this modality right now is, again, coming into a state of at least seeing oneself, having the optics. And again, if this is not the way that you potentially desire to be seen by those around you, this is a moment that's helping you see these things so that you can make a point of accommodation and allow this to be a point of change, something that is productive, something that you can address and accommodate for going forward. Or this is a moment that is coming through as a point of masculine, almost like grabbing their bags and leaving, like literally being like, I'm going home. This could feel a little bit like masculine energy saying like, I'm taking my ball, I'm going home, I don't need to be here. This is like, it's giving a lot of like a little bit of angry teenager to a certain extent, right? Like, so like this, and again, this is a moment because again, the masculine energy right now is in a point of some, this is okay, because again, we don't hold this, the masculine energy in this modality right now. This is something, that same tenacity can be utilized in such positive, productive ways. It's almost like I kept telling you guys, the healing is coming through one way or another. This is almost the energy around them being like, I'm not saying this to cause harm here. I'm saying it so that you can see, and that's that point where everyone's just kind of like masculine energy again. Even now, if masculine's in this modality, you're giving yourself a little time and space because again, the thing that you're identifying here is the fact that there's something that isn't moving the way that you would desire it to. But it's also this moment of recognizing that maybe it is the way that you're trying to do things that is causing a little bit of that fracture point. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Eight of Swords in combination with our Lover's card. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Nine of Swords. Masculine and feminine energy that is moving in divine union and partnership right now. This is going to be a little hard to explain. Okay. Here's the thing. It's a challenging, we're seeing here. This is talking a lot about the challenges, the benefits. Again, everything again is a bit of these optics that we're seeing. The benefits and the detriments, the beauty and the power of divine union. And again, it's not that divine union is easy at every moment. It is difficult. It is triggering. It can feel even, and again, this is one of those days because we see that the energy is a little bit abrasive to each other. We're seeing here, there are moments that even in divine union, you can feel a little bit of that frustration as it relates to limitations or points that you're kind of seeing or pushing against your own boundaries. But what we're also recognizing here is there's a space or place that the divine union is allowing that is, again, creating this moment of observing, of unpacking, like some of those difficulties, some of those hurdles. And today is going to be one of those days where it's like some of that frustration may kind of rise up to the surface to a certain extent. More than anything, the value and significance of this moment is really speaking to the fact of recognizing that in a way, again, much like any kind of act of love, love isn't just something that sticks around when things are easy. Love is something that we have to navigate through, even through those hurdles, even through those difficulties, because that's that feeling of creating a sense or space of that shared burden. Masculine and feminine energy right now are having this point, even in divine union, that is feeling like a lot of that is coming to the surface right now. We've had a lot of scorpionic energy coming up, a lot of that ugliness rising up to a certain extent. But again, a lot of that is an opportunity to look at what is creating that feeling of limitation within the self so that you can liberate through it. Making sure, though, and I think that this is the key factor here, making sure that you're doing this in a way that you respect and appreciate, that the partnership itself is allowing you the space to unpack those things, is that point of value that I think needs to be brought into consideration here. Because again, we do see the possibility of some triggering some triggering energy right now as it relates to some points of conflict that may even come up right now in divine union energy of some things that need to get unpacked. Masculine and feminine energy trying to come into divine union right now. What we're effectively seeing is, again, a moment of observation as it relates to, and for the energy coming into divine union right now, it's going to feel a little bit more difficult for masculine, because what we're effectively seeing right now is for masculine and feminine energy that are trying to come into divine union or divine partnership, what we're effectively observing at this time is this moment that we're recognizing that you're feeling the value, you're feeling the significance, you're feeling the bond of the divine union rising to the surface right now. And with that energy of the divine union coming through, it is something that both feels, and we're going to see this, especially for the masculine, this may be something that is hard to embody. It feels both liberating and confining. Why does it feel liberating and confining right now? Because we're seeing here that, again, for masculine energy right now, it's almost this moment of, again, feeling the weight of the obligations around you now feel like they're becoming more of a burden. It feels like that point of freedom. It feels like that access point, the place that you want to be right now is the divine union and the divine partnership. And again, it's almost this moment that you're feeling that weight of responsibility that's coming through right now, because it's not the fact that the divine union is always sunshine and rainbows. Sometimes it creates some points of difficulty. But what we're seeing that's very beautiful right now for the energy that's continuing to move into divine union at this time is almost that recognition of understanding and allowing oneself to move into that almost gladly, saying like, I want to share and be a part of all of that energy. I want to share with that. Your burden is my burden, etc., etc. And these, we see that for masculine and feminine in this modality, there is that shared center right now that is forming, that is allowing for the divine unions to come into that frequency. Masculine and feminine energy right now that is in separation. This is that moment that we're effectively identifying. Feminine energy is feeling right now the desire or the need. They're seeing some evidence around them right now of what a divine union looks like, what that divine partnership looks like. It is that moment of wanting to access that, wanting to reach that to a certain extent. Feminine energy right now, it's not the fact of the feminine not aspiring for this at this moment. If this is a feminine energy that's moving in separation at this time, or away from a masculine that tried to make either, again, was not in communication with feminine during a point of crisis, or further tried to effectively take that point of observation, tried to put it at the feet, like put blame on the feminine for asking for that level of commitment when they had outside obligations, almost trying to say this is a feminine that's like trying to like deny them their like long-term path or plan due to the fact that they were asking for the bare minimum of partnership. This is feminine energy just looking at things and saying those are not spaces and places that were ideally coming into a space or place of divine partnership. Rather, they were circumstances or situations that were just trying to keep the feminine like accessible, keeping almost like the feminine having to be like effectively like on a shelf to be able to like reach for when needed, but only when desired. And this is the feminine, again, feeling the weight or frustration, even potentially some frustration bubbling up right now in terms of feeling like this was not potentially moving into a divine union, but potentially feminine feeling like it is a masculine that isn't there when the feminine needs them to be, but wants the feminine to be accessible to them whenever they need them. And feminine is feeling that weight of frustration again, but also moving right now with a lot of determination, opening themselves up right now to break free of what now doesn't necessarily feel like something that feels like an equal give and take, but almost feminine and potentially observing feels like something that is not balanced, that isn't giving feminine that possibility of divine union, that is allowing the feminine right now to effectively leave themselves open to new possibilities and opportunities, specifically because feminine potentially just had a point of comparison between what they're experiencing and what they're seeing around them. Again, having some of that energy, being able to communicate and work with energy that is in the divine union frequency. Masculine energy, if in separation right now, you're going to go either way on this right now. For some of the masculine energy, this is a moment that we are saying that this is either the masculine energy that is seeing the divine union energy around them right now and you're feeling frustrated, you're feeling trapped, you're feeling like outside looking in, and you're doing everything you can to make that point of internal adjustment and modification, even having had some point of observation from divine union energy to try to say, well, this is why this isn't working for you. I know this is hard to hear, but here it is. If you really want to know, I'm trying to tell you. It's almost like that's what the energy of the divine unions around the masculine right now, even if they're just platonic, are trying to say to the masculine in separation. And this is either the masculine feeling the full weight and bore of this, really seeing the changes that need to be made, seeing, again, their own self-limited, seeing themselves in a way that you haven't seen yourself before. But again, something that is recognized is something that can be adjusted, or this is masculine energy that is looking at that and saying, that doesn't seem ideal. That seems like it's a trap. That seems like something that's going to confine me. That seems like something like I'm not going to be able to do anything I want to do when I want to do it. No, thank you. That's not what I'm interested in right now. And we see that that's a masculine that's like, again, pushing away from that and saying like, that doesn't feel like something that like creates a point of freedom. It feels like it's going to create a point of confinement. But this is also masculine doing a lot of internal work in the process, because it's almost feeling like a point of not desiring either place right now. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Lovers and our Six of Wands. May I please have one card to clarify? Page of Swords in its reversal. Now, masculine and feminine energy that is moving, again, in divine union and partnership right now. Here is that point of identification that we're seeing, that, again, it's allowing for this state or space of easement, because masculine and feminine energy that's moving in this frequency of divine union, it is what is amplifying you. It is what is restoring you. It is what is helping you focus on those points of victory, on those points of group triumph, on those points of feeling that you're on the same page, that you're sharing in these victories together. This is that moment of feeling the joy of one person's success being another person's success, that rising tide raising all ships, if you will. The problem with this that has to do with it right now, and this is where we're seeing that like full circle moment coming through to a certain extent, has to do with the fact that we're effectively identifying to a certain extent right now that it has more to do with some of the energy around the masculine and around the divine union right now. It's a lot of this energy that we see is happening right now as it relates to the divine union doesn't have to do so much with what is happening within the divine union itself. It's more about the energy of having to navigate some of the energy around the divine union, right? Even potentially having to give these points of like, again, there may be some points right now of energy and divine union, having energy that is approaching them that needs some level of support right now. They need some encouragement. They need some it's almost like see, and this is the beauty of the divine union. This is like why it's like a battery, because like once you see it, like once you see that sense of like positivity that the divine union is creating right now, then the energy around them comes towards them and effectively says, how are you doing it? How are you guys so like, how are things moving so harmoniously between you? And this is masculine and feminine coming into that state or space of trying to articulate this. But again, feeling like it is so difficult because again, what just happened? Some energy got reactionary to it. This could even be feeling like you're dealing with some of the energy that like you tried to give some insight to, but got reactionary to it, did not want to accept that information. Right? It's not that, it's like that motion of like being like, we tried to like, this is something like, again, feeling that weight of trying to support someone, but again, having someone needing to be able to like embody that lesson is that bit of a challenge space that we're seeing. Now, masculine and feminine energy that are trying to come into divine union right now, this is that moment that is allowing for almost like an energetic redistribution of really not being as concerned with any of the obligations outside of the partnership, because more than anything, it's almost this point of recognizing that even if there were some things right now that didn't make you feel as confident it doesn't matter. It's almost feeling the easement of being like wanting to just shrug it off your shoulders, because it's not necessarily a point where you care what other people have to say or what they think. All that matters is the connection to the other energy. That's why we see that some of these obligations that potentially came up over the last few days, they felt more like unnecessary burdens that were weighing down on the ability to come in back into divine union more than anything else. Masculine and feminine energy in separation right now, this is exactly why the feminine energy, if this was a masculine energy that did not hold forward towards feminine when they were in need, that there was a crisis point and the masculine was not there at the feminine side, if not metaphysically, if not like tangibly, at least energetically. This is a feminine that's saying absolutely not. This energy, and this is why we see that the feminine is almost looking at this and feeling like almost a point of being reviled to a certain extent, because this is a feminine energy if in separation and saying you don't have the ability to do it. You don't know what love is. You don't know what divine union is. Love isn't just being able to be with someone when it's convenient. It's about when you're with someone and it's hard and difficult. This is the feminine being like this energy. This is feminine just, again, moving away from someone and saying, I don't want to be in a space or place with someone who isn't going to be able to be there to be like to support me when I need support. This is feminine that is effectively just saying, I don't need that. I'm pushing that away. That energy, again, that energy isn't ready. They're not ready for divine union. And feminine's gotten validation by seeing divine union and saying, I know there's energy out there that is, because I just saw it. Feminine also was going towards these energies of divine union and being like, dude, I just saw it. What they like, this could be a lot of feminine energy that just walking away from something being like, not only did they give me a lot of good advice, but also like they've got it. Look what they've got. That's what I want. Feminine's going, great. I've seen it now. I've got the template. I'm going to go look for that. Masculine energy that is in divine union. This is that moment that we're potentially identifying and seeing that for the masculine energy in divine union, right, we're trying to come like in separation right now. This is that moment that we are effectively identifying and seeing that this is a point of recognizing this might be for masculine right now. It's not the fact that you don't see it. It may even be the fact that some of that energy just gave you some notes. It's more of a question of whether you're ready for it, because it's something about this that's very important that's happened during this moment is you're seeing the full breadth of it. Something about this is really important. It's showing you exactly like everything that you need to sign up for to a certain extent. When it's easy, when it's hard, like that's that thing. You're seeing the fact. Like you're seeing the ability. Again, something about the masculine over the last few days gave an observation point in how easy it is, but also how difficult. The divine union at sometimes is incredibly easy, but it's also very hard because there's limitations. It creates limitations, but it also creates abundance. You know, it creates that like TARDIS effect. And this is that moment that we're seeing that the masculine energy in separation right now is effectively identifying and recognizing and saying to themselves, is that something that you're ready for? Is this something that the masculine energy in separation, are you ready to step into that, seeing that it is going to require you kind of to take a different change, to adjust how you're doing things? Or if this is something that you're saying to yourself, and again, if the masculine's moving in separation right now, this is almost the masculine saying, it's not for me. Not for me. I'm not ready for that. I'm not ready for that level. I'm not ready. But it's almost a masculine in separation. If you're doing this right now, you're recognizing that this has to do with some self-limiting beliefs. Some self-limiting beliefs. Some doubts in one's own self due to some trauma that you're carrying that you're trying to unpack by saying like, why don't I feel like I can do that? Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Between the Magician in its reversal in combination with our 9 of Swords. May I please have one card to clarify? What is this? Okay. Clarification coming through in the Devil in its reversal, which is good. We like to see this. All right. Masculine and feminine energy. Okay. That are in divine union and divine partnership right now. Effectively, again, it is the point of looking towards circumstances and situations. It's not that everything is easy right now. There are difficulties, there are hurdles. You're working through some things right now. But it is that sense or that ability, that mutual accountability, if you will, that is allowing for this to be a point of healing. Because what we're really seeing at this moment is there's a lot of unpacking that's happening. There's a lot of trauma that is being released. There's a lot of fear or anxiety that's expressing itself, coming to the surface. But again, what is happening right now that's in the divine unions, that is so beautiful. It's almost this moment of masculine and feminine saying something again to one another and saying, the last time this pain was brought forth, someone used it against me. Masculine and feminine are mirroring each other in this way. Masculine and feminine are saying, the last time I shared this hurt with someone, they took it and they used it to their full advantage. They used it, I gave them, this is almost masculine and feminine saying, the last time I gave someone the knife that is my own, like the last time I showed someone where my Achilles heel was, I handed them the knife and then they just cut me right there. Masculine and feminine are almost doing right now in divine union and saying, I want you to show me where it hurts. And I'm going to show you exactly how I'm going to do everything in my power to protect that at all costs. I'm going to show you in every way, shape, and form that this is the space and place that I will never allow anyone to touch you or to hurt you or to allow that to happen again. And that's why we see now for the masculine and feminine energy that's doing this work in divine union and divine partnership right now, there's a lot of healing. There's a lot of catharsis that's coming up. There's a lot of unpacking, not only in one's own doubts of the self, but where those doubts came from. And the amplification that's coming back is, I want you to show me. I want you to show me exactly what that happened, so I can show you that that's never, ever, ever going to happen again. Masculine and feminine energy trying to come into divine union right now. What we're effectively seeing here is a moment that we are recognizing that this is something that is happening right now that is feeling very beautiful, because it's not the fact. There is something here that feels triggering. Something recently happened potentially that felt a lot like something from the past. But we see here that both for the masculine and feminine that are moving into divine union right now, this is that moment of feminine feeling the relief of masculine, where they shared their anxieties and grief with and did not come through to utilize it against them, but instead is showing them that they can heal. They're showing the ability. And in a way, it's almost overwhelming for feminine that's experiencing this right now, because it's almost feminine realizing how set they were. Like feminine's own cynicism that something was not going to go well is almost being amplified in the fact that something didn't go the way that they were fearing it would. And in a way, even that feels like a burden, because it almost feels overwhelming to the feminine to have such a fast healing coming in. It's almost like, in a way, that's what's scaring the feminine right now of trying to come into divine union, is feminine feeling so vulnerable and feeling the anxiety of a masculine that they're building this with, and the fear that that might go away. Masculine, it's okay, because you're literally mirroring this right now with the feminine if this is happening, because again, this is that moment that you realize that it's not really a question, that something about moving into divine union is in a way taking your own autonomy away, but you don't care. It's almost this moment that you're saying that that's something fine, that's something that you're more than willing and capable of doing, because again, it's like the grief of not being in union feels like it almost like spoils the fruit before it even touches your lips. It's like, what's the point? What's the point of being free if you don't have anything that you care about? And this is why we see for the masculine right now, this is feeling like a healing moment, because you are also healing. Because this is a moment that you're realizing that you're rejecting your own autonomy. It doesn't feel like something that you're like, it's almost looking at it now from a point of maturation and saying like, why would I ever want that? Why did I ever desire that when I could have this instead? Masculine and feminine energy that is in separation, this is going to feel like a bit of a painful separation right now, because this is the feminine that may be feeling very aggressive about this separation. Okay? Why? Specifically because we see here that this is a feminine energy that is not only moving back into separation, but they're doing so with the feeling that something just occurred wherein the feminine leaned on the masculine at a point that they needed them. And the masculine is potentially weaponizing the feminine reaching out to them in that way, almost trying to amplify or say, how could you do that? Why would you do that? I told all these people you did that. You aren't mindful of what I need, or blah, blah, blah. Again, masculine, instead of seeing that that was a feminine trying to come into divine union, potentially weaponizing the feminine energy that was trying to like build that bridge with them. And this is a feminine energy that's like immediately seeing this for what it is. It's like immediately seeing this and saying, I see what's happening here. I recognize that there is no partnership here. This is an energy where all that feminine realizes that they did not do anything wrong beyond trying to build a bridge, an emotional bridge with the masculine. And this is a masculine that's like literally setting fire to the bridge, and not just setting fire to it, almost saying like, I set fire to it and I showed all these people what you were trying to do. And that's that moment of feminine saying, this is immediately walking away. This is immediately healing. This is immediately the feminine saying, this is not a divine union. This is an energy of someone who just wants me accessible when they want me accessible. They don't want a true partnership. And this is the feminine immediately coming into healing and immediately allowing that to be a point of healing. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Now, for masculine and feminine energy, and the masculine energy in separation right now, this is a moment where the opportunity for you to heal is effectively coming to the surface right now. But it is a difficult healing process, because what we are effectively identifying right now for the masculine in separation at this moment is this point of observation. Something has been brought to your attention as it relates to how the masculine, how you've been seen by the feminine. There's something here that you can identify. There's not just the fact, and this is the problem with the masculine, it's not just the fact right now that the feminine has observed this towards you, may have even created this rupture point. It's the fact that the energy around you is also saying this to you in a way that is trying to come from a healthy place. And for the masculine right now, this is that bearing that weight, because again, at the worst, it's feeling like you are being misconstrued or misunderstood, right? But recognizing how you're being misconstrued or misunderstood is also in a way kind of healing, because it's giving you optics in a way that you hadn't looked at before. It's giving you a different perspective that is helping you heal. For the other part of the masculine energy right now, this is potentially going to feel like more of that like pushback moment, where it's like the pushback moment potentially is feeling like everybody is like asking too much of you. Like you're feeling like the obligations around you, the emotionality around you. This is why it's going to feel a little bit more like trauma-informed healing. It's almost like the care around you is feeling like too much of a burden, and you're just trying to push away from it. But you're also seeing the fact here to a certain extent that this is almost a moment that like your own anxiety of energy getting close to you is what's potentially creating this right now, because your solution is to run in the other direction, right? So there's something here about masculine having to confront this right now one way or another, and it's either pulling the masculine into a point of deeper understanding of the self right now, or it's leading to a little bit of like, I need to get away for a minute and think about things, like especially potentially some travel here, because masculine's like, I don't want to deal with this. I just need to go somewhere. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now, between Nine of Swords in combination with our Page of Swords in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our King of Swords in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy that are in divine union and partnership. This is again, and this is where we're seeing a little bit of that reflection point coming through. And I think that this is what's really beautiful about the divine union energy at this time, is for masculine and feminine that are in divine union and partnership at this moment. It's masculine almost saying to feminine. Feminine is, this is that point of connectivity. This is feminine seeing masculine kind of really persevering, utilizing that point of really kind of like focusing on the tangibles through any feelings of uncertainty right now. And almost feminine saying, it's harder for me. There's a lot of like fear here. There's almost feminine saying to masculine, there's a lot of fear here. And this is masculine almost immediately saying back to feminine, if in divine union right now, what makes you think that I'm not also afraid? This is almost masculine saying to feminine, the way I do things is not by not being afraid. The masculine is almost saying to feminine, the reason I do things is because I'm terrified at every moment. This is almost masculine. Again, this is masculine connecting with feminine and being like, I do it anyway. I do it afraid. I do it terrified. A masculine that's communicating this to feminine, this is, again, that point of them also unpacking their trauma, because this is the masculine that's effectively giving that point of conciliation to the feminine and saying, it's not that I don't experience and feel the same weight, the same concerns that you do. I just don't focus on them. This is almost masculine saying, I couldn't focus on them. If I focused on them, this is almost masculine saying to feminine, if I focused on them, I wouldn't do anything. I wouldn't move. I concentrate on building stability. This is a masculine in divine union right now that's saying, I concentrate on making the changes I can where I can make them. And that helps through the fear. Feminine is potentially helping masculine in this vibration, because this is masculine that's articulating it, and it's building a sense of emotional catharsis, because this is a masculine that is building that emotional bridge with the feminine and saying, I can meet you there too. I also experience that. Masculine and feminine right now that are moving into divine union and partnership. This is that moment that, again, masculine, you may be feeling this point that like you're starting to be more vulnerable. You're opening up in ways that you can. But in a way, it feels like this could be something very triggering right now for energy coming into divine union, because it's starting to almost build this fear of how much importance the energy around you is creating in your life. It's almost this moment that is feeling like something that needs to be navigated, because now it's like the fear that's emerging has to almost do with the weight of the divine union, the full import of how much it matters to you. And recognizing to a certain extent that fear is also, in a way, another articulation of love. Because that is that moment that you realize that the anxiety that you're feeling is that moment of recognizing something that you hold precious and you don't want to lose. And more than anything right now, and again, a lot of this is going to be masculine, having to ground some of that energy into a space or place that doesn't feel like it becomes reactionary or possessive, but productive. But productive by building with it instead of tearing down with the anxiety. For some of the masculine energy, it's that same point of separation that you now find yourself in, because this could be a masculine energy right now. If in separation, you now realize that that fear that you were potentially feeling towards a feminine that may have caused you to move away from them was actually the opposite. You may now be feeling the recognition that that fear that you had, that thing that pulled you away, was your expression of love, because it was really showing you how important that was to you. How important the gravity of emotion that you felt that was fear, you're identifying now was actually love. You're identifying now was actually that thing that was identifying how important something was to you. And now there's something about this moment that's potentially happening that feels like a lot of weight potentially coming on the masculine energy and separation, because it may be feeling a bit like recognizing that in that moment, something that you've done gave every articulation to the opposite. That fear, that energy of fear pulled you away from something you cared about instead of towards it at a time that they needed you most. And going through this vibration right now for masculine is something that potentially needs a lot of unpacking and may have to do with some deeper father wounds as well that we're potentially seeing here, because there's a lot of trauma that this is potentially opening up right now for the masculine energy. Bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. And this is going to take a little bit of time. This is why we see even now some of this masculine energy is again still pulling away. They're still running back. They're still moving in the opposite direction. But masculine, the thing about this right now is if you're doing this, you see yourself. That's the thing. You're seeing yourself doing it. And it's almost the masculine trying to go through this moment and saying, how do I not do this? How do I not create more difficulty and more hurdles from running away from the things or the people that I care about? Masculine is going through this right now Again, making sure that you're putting a lot of care of the self in right now is going to be really key. Make sure that you're giving yourself that space or place. Make sure you're unpacking this with a lot of other energy right now, because we see here that this is a lot of heavy energy for masculine to be carrying. And the problem with this that we're seeing for some of the masculine energy in separation is the feeling that the person that you ideally aspire to talk to about this is not someone that is present for one reason or another right now. It's almost like the masculine wanting someone to be able to talk to about these things and not feeling like a lot of the masculine energy around them at this moment is supportive in this fashion. So making sure that masculine is going into a space or place right now, if you're in separation where you have somewhere to unpack this, is probably going to be very important right now, because this could be feeling very isolating for masculine energy in this modality, because it's this feeling of not only feeling the weight of this within the self right now, but also feeling like there's some difficulty in finding anyone else that you can turn to at this moment. Make sure that you're reflecting out what you would like to get back, is what I'm going to say. That's what's going to help. Now, feminine energy that is in separation, this is why the feminine energy is just bearing this weight of frustration. Feminine energy feels very confirmed that they've seen masculine energy that has the ability to mature in this process. Feminine energy is even seeing a lot of that healthy karmic energy around them right now that's amplifying their ability to be able to go out and find that for themselves at this moment. The problem with feminine energy in this modality is just feeling the full weight of having to release energy that they feel hasn't stood in that modality. This is feminine energy. It's not the fact that the feminine energy can't see the journey that the masculine's going through. This is not a feminine energy that even feels like a masculine would intentionally try to hurt a feminine. The problem with the feminine is looking at the masculine energy and realizing and recognizing that masculine energy that is wounded or hurt inadvertently hurts the feminine energy. And that's the weight of the feminine that's trying to navigate this right now. It's not even the feminine putting any degree or of frustration or blame on masculine. It's almost the feminine trying to isolate or move away from masculine energy that has not healed. Because what feminine has identified is that when masculine energy is not healed, they will inadvertently hurt those around them, even without knowing it, even without recognizing what they are doing. And this is the feminine bearing that weight and also feeling, again, the hardship of the feminine in this modality is simultaneously bearing the weight of the care that they feel towards energy in that modality, but also recognizing that they have to stay separate from them, because that energy, if it is not healed, has the capacity to harm. So that's a feminine who, again, wants to heal, but cannot come close enough to heal, because the energy will harm them in the process of trying to lay on that healing. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now, between final card for today's spread, between our Devil card in its reversal and our King of Swords in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Page of Wands, and we love to see this. This is beautiful. This is absolutely beautiful right now. What are we seeing? This is coming through. This is like silver linings here, okay? Masculine and feminine energy that is moving through right now. Again, masculine and feminine energy right now that is in divine union. This is that moment of unpacking trauma that is leading to breakthroughs. Okay, what we're really seeing is, again, this is why we see that the masculine energy, even at this moment, is like having to go through some healing, even in divine union. Masculine energy is almost trying to say to feminine right now, listen, I feel like that too. And this is almost masculine energy saying, I feel like that all the time. What you're feeling right now, that anxiety, that fear, that uncertainty, I feel it all the time. But masculine energy says, I heal it. I have to fix that part of myself. Masculine actually says to themselves, again, the masculine energy right now in divine union is saying, my only job is to heal my fear. Why is masculine energy saying that in divine union right now? Because it's saying there are energies that depend on me not to be afraid. That's how the masculine energy is helping the feminine right now through their own feelings, if in divine union. This is literally masculine saying to feminine, I'm afraid all the time. I tell myself that's what I need to heal so that I can take care of those around me. Feminine may be seeing this right now on the part of the masculine energy, and simultaneously also getting that sense of confidence from a masculine in recognizing that this is a masculine that, again, it's not that things are easy for them, it's that it's very hard. But feminine is almost willing to take a chapter from the masculine's book and say, I can also operate in a state of fear. I can also operate in a state of being uncertain but still getting things done. That this is that moment of feminine almost taking that point of education from a masculine, because what has the feminine been learning in this cycle? Stoicism. What is stoicism? Stoicism is doing something not because it is easy, because it is really, really hard and you know it's the right thing to do. So feminine is taking a chapter in terms of that sense of stoicism, going through, pushing through, persevering, even when they are afraid. That is helping the feminine also reflect back that message. Again, getting that circuit happening in terms of understanding. Masculine and feminine energy right now that is moving into divine union. This is masculine feeling, this is the masculine feeling energy that is realizing that they're shifting where their fear lies. And again, for the masculine energy going through this right now, it's almost this moment of feeling like the anxiety point is potentially losing the connection with the feminine. That this is why we see masculine is moving away from other obligations right now and putting things, everything back now towards this feminine, because this is almost, and this is going to feel like, in a way, this is going to be really triggering to the masculine energy if you're going into divine union right now, because it's going to make you feel like a little kid. It's almost going to make you feel like a little kid because it's almost this like gut punch moment. This is not masculine going into divine union right now being like, yay, I'm in love. This is masculine going, I am terrified. I am terrified right now about how I'm feeling. This is literally masculine going, I am flippin' terrified of how I'm feeling right now, because this person, this energy around me is now where where the importance is. It's like where the obligation is. It's like, no, like this is almost masculine being like, oh no, like that's, I have to, like, yeah, this is what I take care of now. It's almost masculine getting into that, like, almost like that childlike energy now that's making them feel like, it's almost like, if masculine starts getting a little quiet right now, it's almost because masculine's feeling very childlike, because this isn't masculine looking at love being like, woo, I'm in love. This is masculine going, oh, this is like that ball drop, like weight of obligation moment, and saying like, oh, this is where my, this is it. This is that where that importance is right now. Feminine and going through this right now are coming into and into alignment with masculine in this vibration. This is also a moment that, again, you could be seeing that the masculine feels like there's something that you may be seeing is changing in the masculine energy. And you're almost like, are you okay? What's going on with you? This could be a masculine being, I'm fine. Yeah, it's fine. Perfectly fine. Because this is a masculine energy, again, that may have a hard time. Like, it's almost like a point where it actually is getting harder for them to communicate about this, because, like, again, it's coming through and being like, it's making them feel kind of very childlike in this modality. Feminine, you may be seeing this right now in the fact of, like, recognizing a masculine that, like, you know, almost is coming towards you, like, in, like, a little bit of, like, it's almost like a different kind of energy, and being like, are you, like, I'm kind of just getting feminine being like, are you okay? Like, really? You know? Masculine, but again, masculine, the feminine energy is picking up on, like, sees this, is also potentially recognizing that this is like, it's because masculine's putting a lot, is like, it's like something about this has, like, is adjusting or shifting some things in them. And it's creating this, like, state of potentially new conversations that may not have had happened before. Different avenues of conversations that may start opening up. Masculine and feminine energy that is in separation. This is exactly why the feminine is shutting a door and leaving themselves open. This is literally feminine now going out to find masculine energy. Remember I told you feminine wasn't seeking? Feminine seeking again. Feminine is back out. Feminine is now in a space or place where feminine, again, especially if this is a moment where feminine opened up to masculine, left themselves vulnerable to masculine. And instead of masculine meeting them, building that emotional bridge with them, just tried to light it on, like set it aflame, tried to potentially accuse the feminine of trying to ruin something for them by having the audacity of trying to build an emotional connection at a time when they had an obligation. This is a feminine energy that's just walking away from that, saying immediately that that's not a masculine that was standing in their integrity, even recognizing that that might be a feeling right now of frustration because this is a masculine that they feel it wasn't being honest to the feminine, potentially intentionally deceiving them to a certain extent, because this is the feminine that's seeing through that charade and saying, I wasn't trying to ruin something for you. I was trying to just maintain a partnership in the process of anything else happening. And that's the feminine immediately identifying that that is something that they are healing, trying to heal. And that's why we see the feminine is moving forward on that direction, in that capacity, in that degree. Feminine is going forward, not looking back. Also feeling that validation point in having seen positive, healthy energy around them as it relates to positive karmic energy right now. And it is that confirmation, it is that insight, that optics of having been supported during that moment when they needed the masculine but instead got positive karmic energy around them, that is now supporting the feminine to go forward, to continue to look for that, because feminine is now has the template in their head. They're like, I know what to look for now. Masculine energy in separation. There's a moment that we're effectively seeing. Again, there is an optics here. There's a shift in your perception that's happening. And again, this is not necessarily even just coming from energy around you that was romantic in nature. This could be some energy that you went towards for some good karmic advice. And what you got back wasn't what you expected. But it is creating a point of observation. So we see here for the masculine energy, this is either a note, an insight, that is being taken into consideration, or this is something masculine and even potentially saying, starting with communication to the energy that may have caused some of that fracture point that tried to bring this to the masculine. And like we said yesterday, this is potentially masculine going to feminine saying, you had a point. You've got a point. You've got a point. I see it. That's effectively masculine going through right now and doing that. While for masculine, again, the other part of the masculine energy right now might be a bridge too far. Might still be a bridge too far because, again, something about this is opening up some deep childhood wounds that may lead the masculine, instead of addressing it, to literally travel away from something. Literally go somewhere else, wander, figure out what they need to figure out, moving around a bit to try to not deal with this, is what we're effectively seeing, even though it's kind of running in the back burner of someone's brain. Bottom of the deck for this reading right now. Judgment, decisions being reached, choices being made, masculine and feminine energy right now. Now, for masculine and feminine energy in divine partnership right now, this has a lot to do with those choices that you're making going forward from this point. There is a lot of weight right now in terms of the choices that you feel like you need to make at this time. And again, something about this right now feels like a lot of the energy in divine union and partnership feels like a lot of the weight of judgment is coming towards them from outside of the partnership itself. We saw that a lot of this energy right now has a lot to do with outside in, feeling the weight of some situations and circumstances that masculine and feminine and divine union are dealing with right now. The thing is, it's almost like that funhouse mirror, which is who's judging who, right? There's almost masculine and feminine being are we judging them or are they judging us? Whose decisions are these? And that in a way is like where we see that some of that energy of judgment is lingering around the partnerships. And that's why we said it's almost that moment of being like masculine, being like, who cares about anybody else? And that in a way is also a judgment call. Okay. So like a lot of making sure to like, keep that point of like fluidity in judgments might be kind of important here. Okay. Masculine and feminine that are trying to come into partnership right now, there's some choices that need to be made. And again, something has to do about with that shifting in priorities that's happening right now that may feel like there is a lot of thoughts about how that's going to play out as it relates to any points of accommodations or adjustments that need to be made as it relates to some of, again, for a lot of the energy coming into partnership right now, the partnerships are coming at the cost of other partnerships or other obligations. And this is that moment that, again, having to deal with some of the changes that you need to make for the sake of the partnership right now is something that's just kind of creating an air of judgment around the partnerships that are coming into fruition. Masculine and feminine, but again, it's that point of recognizing that to come into divine union, something is potentially being let go. Masculine and feminine energy that is in separation right now. This is feminine laying heavy judgment on masculine. This is some heavy judgment. And I will stress that one of the key differentiators here is while we saw that in the past, this is feminine energy that was leading the door effectively open to a certain degree for masculine to come in and make accommodations and changes. If feminine is moving now in a vibration where they feel like the masculine energy was intentionally trying to evade partnership by intentionally misdirecting feminine's attempts at building a partnership with them and trying to make it look like they were trying to ruin something or spoil something, then this is feminine basically saying like that is something that is like, that's feminine having watched masculine like tar, feather, and then burn a bridge between them. And feminine almost feeling the weight of saying like, some things cannot be corrected for. Some things cannot be changed. Masculine in separation right now, this is feeling the weight of some of that judgment upon you. This is feeling the weight of, again, having that point of observation, potentially having asked advice from others, getting their perspective on things is making you feel, again, very heavily judged right now, if not externally, but very heavily externally probably. But also the fact that you feel like the weight of some decisions that you need to potentially make right now. And this is that moment that, again, some of those choices that you may have made that you didn't fully see the full optics on prior are now kind of coming back to you in a way that you have to have to this point of seeing them fully and clearly. That is our daily collective read for today. I want to thank you guys so much for being here and experiencing it with me. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me, you can book one on my website, graystrega.com. My private readings are done over video. And if you are a subscriber to my TikTok, you can take 10% off any of my services when you pay. Just mention your subscriber ID at the point of payment. Please keep in mind, if you book a private reading with me, it is a 2-step process. You have to book the reading, you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you would like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never, ever, 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 ever reach out to you for a private reading. I'll never inbox you. I am never going to PM you. I'm never going to slide into your DMs and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my website. So I encourage you to do it there. I want to thank you so much for being here with me today and sharing with me in these messages. And we will do this again